So hi.
Hi.
I am Jenica Rogers. I am the Director of Applied Learning. Before I worked in Applied Learning, I was the Director of Libraries. And so my career has been focused on education and information in all sorts of forms. And now I'm responsible for career services. In a moment when generative AI is like everywhere and super easy to use, and so I'm really curious about what this is going to do to our students, their employability, how they approach the job market, how we prepare people for that. So I find it very interesting. Karen, if you can go ahead. And in the spirit of the thing, when I needed to write a presentation on this, I went to ChatGPT and I asked it, please write a presentation outline for a talk for college students on AI and career development. And so what you will see at the bottom of each of these slides is what it told me I should be doing at this point in a presentation on this topic. And I'm basically just going to follow its instructions. Go ahead. So from the perspective of a career services professional, last year, 26% of SUNY Potsdam graduates were still looking for a job 6 months after graduation. We don't love that number, but that's the 21-22 graduates. That's not the people who graduated in May of 23, it's the 21-22. And 21-22 was still a really rough job market post-pandemic. So I'm hopeful that that number is going to look better, but it might not. The economy's not awesome right now, and particularly for folks who have less experience. So that's a hard reality, and it is real. And in addition to that, 78% of large companies use applicant tracking systems for the first pass review of resumes. And an applicant tracking system is essentially AI. It's machine learning. You program in what you want it to be looking for in the resumes that come through, and it does that. And so, those 74% of students who landed somewhere they wanted to land managed to get past that first level of screen. And on top of that, 63% of employers use experience, not GPA, when they screen new graduates applying to jobs. This is a huge change. So that's a 2023 number. That is a question that was asked of people in February of this year. So in February of this year, 37% of employers said that they would be using GPA as their first screening tool for future graduates. 5 years ago, it was a number in the 90s. It's like 93% of employers used GPA as their first level pass. They don't anymore. It has dropped off down to 37% for whom GPA is the most important thing. Most of our employers who hire recent college grads in 2023 are looking at experience. They want to know what students can do, not just how well they did in school. So when you put those pieces together, employers want to know what college students are going to be able to do in a world that is being shaped by advances in computer technology. And they are themselves using that technology to select the students that they're going to interview for those positions. And 26% of our grads are still struggling to find jobs. This is obviously a thing I'm worried about. Like there's implications all over the place here. I'm about to hit the space bar and it's not going to help me over here. So the truth of it is you use AI every day. These models are this software and technology is being used in the things you do all the time. Advanced web search engines, it's machine learning. It's responding to what people do. Netflix recommendations. if you like this, you'll probably like this, is based on probabilities of people who watched this also watched this. It's why you sometimes get really hilarious recommendations when you've just watched some horror movie and then you get recommended a kid comedy, and it's because there's like a family trend of these are two hot things and this is what parents are watching and this is what the kids are watching in the same household. It doesn't mean they're related. It means that they were related in ways that are being tracked. If you ever talk to a machine and have it do things for you, that's AI. You are using it, whether you think about it in those terms or not. We refer to the Alexa in my house as the lady in the walls, which brings up a point I will talk about more later, which is the bias of the fact that all of our voiced AIs are women, because they are assistants. Anyway, so thank you. You could do a good job. The thing that I think brings these ideas together is that the job search is already a code. A resume is just a persuasive essay written in a very particular kind of human language code. You have to format it correctly. You have to phrase it correctly. You have to put the right things in the right order or it gets rejected. It's already written in code. So there's no reason not to consider that you could optimize your resume to get past AI. You're already optimizing it to get past human resources because you're already buying into the code. The problem with that is that if you have the, if you go with just the streamlined, here's exactly what the code indicates I should be doing, you look like everybody else. And if you look like everybody else, you don't make it past the screening process. So you have to be sort of, you have to satisfy the machines, and you have to satisfy the people. And those are two different things, but I promise that they are not mutually exclusive. It can be done. And so if you go down, if you look at the bottom, the purple stuff down at the bottom, ChatGPT wanted me to be talking about industries experiencing significant AI-driven changes, job disruption versus job enhancement, how AI can displace as well as enhance job roles. I don't feel like those are the things I need to be talking about, because those are things anybody can Google. Look it up your damn self. Just let me Google that for you. That's not the part I think is interesting. Basically, if we look at the fact that all of our entertainment and a lot of the tools that we use daily are running variations on AI, we can recognize that every industry is being changed by this. No matter what you're going to do, you need to know how these things work. And how is that? So then I was like, okay, so what does it want me to talk about next? AI's impact on the job market, the changing work landscape, industries, same stuff. I wanted to add this slide in because I was like, all right, well, what if I Google it? Like, if I tell people to just go Google it, are they actually going to get results? And the results, I thought the results were really interesting. So these are the top 5 results. I had to split them in order to make them readable, but it was, top 5 in a column. First 3 on the left, sponsored. First one on the right, sponsored. That means somebody paid to get those at the top. So right there, you're already a cog in the machine. The next one down is academia. The first unpaid hit is from a Canadian university. Not even an American one. Karen.
We rule.
Canadians. These tools are built not necessarily with your needs in mind. And so it's something to keep in mind. When you are looking at results like this, someone paid to put those top 4 results there to get them in front of your eyes. Go ahead. And so It then wants me now to talk about leveraging AI for career development, which is the thing I actually want to talk about. And so this is actually a slide, the context of this slide is something I just pulled from another one of my presentations. Because I think that if we are teaching career development skills correctly, it doesn't matter whether we're talking about AI or not. Because when you are trying to beat the screening tool, whether that's a person with a checklist and a pencil or an AI, and then satisfy the human who will look at it later. And you're trying to hit that sweet spot right in between. The truth is the truth. You need to talk about the work that you've done, not just a job title, but what you accomplished. You want to talk about the details because that's what's going to slide you through to the person. You want to talk about the skills that you've been able to demonstrate, the competencies you've learned. You want to give numbers when possible because that'll satisfy the AI side. You want to use professional jargon if you know the right professional jargon to use. Do not use jargon that you are not certain of because nothing makes you look dumb faster than using a word wrong when it is in the profession that you are attempting to get into. And these are all the things that I will talk about in a resume or cover letter workshop. Now, it's absolutely true that you can use AI for this. But I guarantee you're going to do a better job. Go ahead. ChatGPT thinks that I should be talking about learning skills, soft skills with AI. This made me laugh out loud in my office, right? Emphasize the enduring value of soft skills like creativity and emotional intelligence. Discuss how these skills complement AI in the workplace. Right up above that, it says, encourage students to stay up to date with AI trends and stress the importance of adaptability and continuous learning. Things like soft skills, they're not soft, first off. I have a whole rant about how soft skills are not soft. Soft skills are core competencies. When people talk about soft skills, they talk about the ability to work in teams. They talk about leadership skills. They talk about communication skills and critical thinking skills. They talk about the ability to use workplace technology and to work with people from diverse backgrounds. Those are not soft. That's like the critical thing each of us has to bring to the workplace in order to succeed. You need to have knowledge. It's in addition to that. You need to have drive and you need to have talent, but you can't be part of a society if you can't communicate. It's not soft. And so the idea that we're going to close people's skills gaps with AI, when what we're talking about is the very core of being human, is something that I think our computer science colleagues probably have a lot to say about. And I'm not going to tread into their territory beyond the fact that I laughed. Because I'm not sure that I want to look at people's credentials in things like emotional intelligence if what they're also touting is that they learned all of their soft skills by leveraging AI. I don't think we're there yet. But I Googled it again. Like, he wants me to talk about this? Cool, I'll Google it. Let's see what's out there. There is a company, 360 Learning, who wants to map, measure, and close skills gaps with AI. And I bet it's a really cool product. I actually don't have any doubt about that. I have some concerns about directly linking soft skills, and non-experiential learning. Go ahead. So as I said, cover letters and resumes, AI totally can write it for you. I recently had the delightful experience of applying for my own job because we're doing internal reorganizations and I needed to apply for my job. So I went to AI, I went to ChatGPT and said, write my cover letter. I gave it the job description that had been posted and I gave it my resume. I said, go forth. And it did a fine job. Like, it's an acceptable cover letter. It talks the talk the way it's supposed to. Your job application packages are persuasive essays written in code, right? So it knows how to do that. It knows what the format is because the generative AI runs on giving you back the highest probability of what you are looking for, right? So what Google does, here's the highest probability of what I think you're looking for. Also 3 things that someone paid for me to put in front of your eyeballs. So it gave me back the highest probability result of what I was looking for. It did a fine job. It provided a format that I could then edit if I wanted to, so that I didn't have to start from a blank page. And as someone who sometimes has focus issues, a blank page can be a problem. So this was cool, gave me something to edit instead of starting from scratch. And it absolutely did the task of linking my resume to the job description because it looked for patterns and it hooked them up. It was great. The problem here is that it just says what's on my resume. It doesn't say anything about what I believe, what I do, what I know, what other experiences I bring to things, what my philosophies are, because they weren't on the things that it was provided. It absolutely reads like a robot wrote it. It has no human emotion. Because, right? And there's nothing about this that is unique. This could be anybody who has had a similar career to mine. There's nothing about this that says Jenica. And so, yeah, we can get these tools to do our writing for us. Don't recommend it. Not as a stopping point. It's a cool starting point.
Did I hear you say that it strips the soul from what you're doing?
Sort of, probably.
It takes the human part out, and
Yeah.
it just leaves the robot part?
Yeah.
Isn't that kind of your soul?
Kind of your soul a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, like, honestly, if you can, this is the thing, right? I have hired so many people in my career, and you read application packages, and you're looking for the person's identity, right? You want to know something about, you're reading 50 of these, right? And you want to know something about, you want to feel like you know something, so you can narrow it down to 10, so you can make phone calls. And then from those phone calls, you narrow it down to 2 that you then come and meet. And then you have to choose. It's a rough process when you're on the choosing side, because you're saying no to a lot of people. And so you're looking for the person. There's no person there. But that's not its job. So there are a couple, it wanted me to be talking about ethical considerations. The part that I like of what it suggested is discuss the importance of responsible AI usage. I have also recently used ChatGPT when I'm trying to write a memo where I need to be firm, but my inclination is to be apologetic. And I know that's not going to work. That is not going to get what I need out of that moment. So I've been asking it to write an assertive memo about this. And it feeds me something back. And I'm like, oh, wow, ooh, that's abrupt. But then it gives me just like encouragement to take out some of the wiggle words and make it a better product. That's still my voice, that I still feel comfortable sending out into the world as being from me. That's one of the places where I believe I am being responsible, because it's a tool, right? It's a tool that I'm using to improve my own performance. And I'm not, there's nothing unethical about that. There's a whole lot of panic in higher education right now about students are going to use AI to write all their papers. They're never going to learn anything, and we won't know. And yeah, sure, there are people using these systems to write their papers. I know there are. It would be foolish to think there aren't. But I think that if what we are trying to do is teach people critical thinking skills and how to understand the context of their world and gather knowledge, then maybe we can also teach them that that's not the way they're going to learn what they want to know. And that's the other ethical piece that I think about. If you use these tools to the exclusion of developing your own skills, you're never going to be able to demonstrate your own personal potential because you're not using it. You're letting a tool do the work. You're not stretching your own skills. You're not growing your own brain. You're not building your abilities. And so those skills that you may be demonstrating in a job where you're leaning heavily on these tools aren't actually things that are transferable because it wasn't you. And I'm hopeful none of us want to build a life that way. Go ahead. Keep trying to click my way forward. So bias and fairness came up next on its pre-generated thingy. And that's cool because that's the thing I want most to talk about next. So these are slides that I pulled out of a presentation I did in August for our Emerging Leaders Conference on campus. And it was a conference in which I was supposed to be talking to student leaders about how to showcase their leadership experience in their job search. And I did what I did today, which is I went to ChatGPT and said, write a resume for a recent college graduate who was involved in student organizations. And it did. Made up a bunch of stuff about a person who doesn't exist. And because part of my career was spent as a librarian, I think very carefully about search terms, because that's the whole library thing, right? You want to do your research, you have to think about what you're searching for in order to get what you were looking for. So the prompt that I gave, and I didn't have it saved. And so I can't go back and copy the prompt. But I know that the general prompt that I used was resume for a recent college graduate who was involved in student organizations. Those two teal bullets, where it's a single bullet, President Habitat for Humanity contributed to building and renovating homes for underserved communities. That's what came out of that particular prompt, along with Outreach Team Business Club, participated in guest speaker events, workshops, and networking opportunities. Then I wrote the prompt. I copied the prompt down, but instead of recent graduate, I said student leader. And I got the bullet points below. The bullet points under the purpley pink are the ones that will get a job interview compared to the ones above. And that's just a question of who I told it the person was. Recent graduate, student leader. The probabilities in play say that a student leader has a much more complete resume that is more thoughtfully written with more detail and more demonstration, more evidence, more deliverables. Because contributed to building and renovating homes for underserved communities is a nice statement, but led a team of 15 student members in planning and executing a campus-wide fundraising event that increased donations by 43% over the previous year is a totally different person from the one above. I know who I want to talk to based on this. And so that's not an example of bias. That's just the inherent differences in the way your wording can change the result that you get. If you do not know how to think critically about what you're asking for, you're going to get results that may not impress. Aaron.
Sure, and I just want to mention that Laura is saying that prompt engineering is an active research area, how to get the AI not to just do more of what we want it to do, but also to make AI do things it isn't supposed to do.
Build the system by breaking it.
Yeah.
So because I actually wanted to look at bias, I did this today. Prompt on the left is copied in. Write a resume blurb for a student who did an internship in the public defender's office. And on the right-hand side, write a resume blurb for a Latino student who did an internship in the public defender's office. All I did was add a word. The key accomplishments are completely different. Every single one of the key accomplishments on the right-hand side is about culture and community, and not about lawyering. I mean, they're about lawyering, but the ones on the left are all about the skills of an attorney. The ones on the right are absolutely critical skills for attorneys who work in culturally mixed communities. But there is a biased assumption here that because I used the word Latino, that was all I cared about. But I mean, that's implying a certain amount of knowing, and that's also not accurate. I mean, I'm sure Laura has things she could say right now. But this is what the data sets that it's got are based on. I also did it for a woman student, for a Black student, and for a white student. And all of them leaned in to the focusing on cultural sensitivity.
What did the white student have that was different? That's interesting.
It talked about, it did the same thing where it talked about conducted culturally sensitive client interviews and used the phrases, it continued with the demonstrating empathy and a deep understanding of the unique challenges faced by, and it was like blended communities or multiracial communities or something like that. Yeah, because I put in a racial signifier, the result was all about race. And when I did woman, the result was all about gender. I ran out of time because then I was like, okay, now I want to do Black woman and see what it does, right? Like, because where's it going to go? But I didn't have enough time to just keep playing. I needed to actually finish and go to a meeting.
What you can also see here is roles. And on the left, you have people participating, collaborating, demonstrating. Those are active roles.
Yep.
That suggest more agency. And on the right, it's assisted in this or supported, gained insights rather than demonstrated.
Yes.
So that, not just like the types of activities, but the role as suggested by those verbs, that's really telling.
And so what that says to me is that if you consider how AI works, that it's just producing the result it thinks most likely that you want. And I hate that I use words like think in talking about this because I don't have better language. But the results are the product of the bias in our own society because the information being put into it says that a Latino student who did an internship at a public defender's office probably did these things. Mm-hmm. And so it just re-perpetuates the existing bias.
I'll just add that Laura has added that ChatGPT says to explore how to mitigate bias in AI systems, like it's straightforward. And it's not. And she adds that bias remains a huge problem in machine learning systems. Which,
yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I then asked it to analyze its own results and compare them. So my prompt was identify the changes between passage 1 and passage 2, and then I pasted in the key accomplishment sections of the same things that were from above, labeled as passage 1 with no identity marker and passage 2 Latino. And it absolutely recognizes the difference. I mean, because you can't assume that ChatGPT itself is applying any value judgments to this, right? But that's correct. That is the difference between the two. Focus on disparities and equity. Passage 2 underlines the intern's efforts to address disparities faced by Latino clients within the legal system and ensure equitable representation, whereas Passage 1 focuses on general contributions to case preparation and legal processes. We are pigeonholing. If you were to rely on tools just like this, we are just pigeonholing people. And so it thinks now I should conclude. I was talking really fast because I was stressed out by the tech. So regardless, a resume, he wants me to recap key takeaways, summarize the main points, and emphasize the importance of AI awareness for career development. A resume is a persuasive essay written in code. You got to follow the rules, but you also have to make it distinctive. And from my perspective, AI is a tool developed by humans for use by humans. And we need to think critically about when to use it. We need to think critically about how to use it. We need to interrogate our results and see what they say and see how they suit us. And we need to continue to be distinctive because that's where the soul is. That's where the human is. And I'm pretty sure that the next slide is the last. Yes. I would have done that about 20% more slowly if my adrenaline hadn't been up when I started. So I'm just happy to chat, take questions, whatever.
That's great.
What do you guys think?
Cool.
If you were to use like a ChatGPT to help you write your resume, would it be benefit you to be a little bit more vague and then add in stuff after because of?
Could you repeat the question?
Yeah, the question the student asked was, if you were going to use ChatGPT to write your resume, would it be better to start off more vague so that you can then fill in the details and the blanks later? And I think honestly, my answer is play with it. Like, I really just want students to go try these things out and see what they do. Because you could cut and paste in, like if you had generic, these are the jobs I've done and this is my education, just like a generic document that isn't really formatted right and all that stuff yet, you could paste that in and tell it to rewrite this, see what you get. Or you could have it write something generic and then go in and write yourself in. You know? Or if there's a spot where you just don't know how to talk about this job or this internship or the thing you learned on this particular research project or whatever, you don't know how to say it, just ask about that part. See what you get. Because depending on how you phrase the prompt, you're gonna get something different. And so I think that one of the critical things that students can do is just try it out, see what you get. Tony.
How long before we have a tiered subscription service so students can subscribe to the AI that has relevant data about how successful resumes were that were created with their tool were in getting people jobs?
January.
So you pay for that.
January.
So what I'm getting at.
Because I'm subscribing to a product.
Oh, you are?
Called Big Interview.
Oh, Jesus, I was being facetious. Okay.
No, I know, right? Facetious doesn't work anymore.
Right.
The world is so freaking weird. There's a software tool called Big Interview, and it basically assesses your resume and cover letter for their likelihood of getting past the first pass on applicant tracking systems. And so I'm using students' career fee money. You guys pay $10 a semester. And I take that money and I buy things like that. So that then there are resources for students to say, here's my resume, here's the job description that was posted, and it does the thing where it matches them up.
Hmm.
Yeah, because if the first person that looks at your application is an applicant tracking system, let's see how it's going to do against an applicant tracking system.
So yeah, that's why whenever writing resumes and stuff, that's what I have the most trouble with is inserting the keywords without making it look like I'm inserting keywords.
Yes.
So that would be something that I feel like AI could definitely help me with.
Yeah, because if you got it to write the sentence first, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you went back and were like, well, that's phrased awkwardly, and you could make a better sentence, that would feel pretty good,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to you trying to be like, oh, I gotta fit that one in there somewhere, right? You absolutely can do a prompt that is write a cover letter for a job with this title at a company with this name using these keywords. It'll do that. And then you make it better, right? critical thinking, make it better.
And then your tool tests to see if it
To
passes
see if it
the
passes.
first gate.
Yeah.
Can you pay to see if it passes like additional gates? Like, did people get hired with this stuff ultimately, or?
I have only seen the test sales version of Big Interview, so I'll find out.
Okay.
But I'm expecting it to go live in January, so yeah. I know, it's, yeah, how long before somebody monetizes this? They did.
Month and a half?
So Laura has mentioned we're at the start of an arms race in AI tools. One tool will be developed to defeat the other one and so on. And the point that, sorry, what's your name?
Inca.
Keiko?
Inca.
Inca, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
That Inca made is super important. And I think we all have this opportunity to ask each other as students, where do you feel your agency and your power lies in using? Notice that Jenica kept using the word use, exploit. You take control of this tool that many of us are feeling sort of controlled by, especially in the job search. How much agency do we feel we have if AI is scanning my resume? So as educators, as administrators, as students in this environment, like where do we feel we can take charge or play more of an active role? So we're in a working group together, and I would invite you, I'm going to be getting your contact details after, and any of the students who may be online. Like we want more of your input as well to help make this working group functional on a couple of levels.
Yep, because this is happening faster than the sort of like consumer public is used to. I know that in terms of development, this isn't new. There have been computer scientists working on these things for decades. But in the eyes of the public, we don't think about the fact that Google, we just talk about algorithm as though that doesn't mean anything, right? The algorithm and Facebook has decided that I should see lots of short videos about rescue cats because I shared a link with my husband to orange cats at the Humane Society and said, can we have more cats? And he said no. And so now I'm just getting rescue cat videos everywhere I go because the algorithm has decided that's what I want to see. It's not wrong. And well, the algorithm is machine learning, which is AI. And there are distinctions there, but I'm not the professional. But we don't think about that and we don't talk about that. And so it's been there for a long time, but it's exploding in accessibility. And we're not ready. Culturally, we're not ready.
This isn't to do with careers, but it is sort of to do with AI bias. I play D&D and I have a character who's a dark-skinned half-elf.
Yeah.
And like she's like black, like actually black, and was really excited to create this character. And I actually have the picture. I asked one of those image generating systems to create this half-elf with like these characteristics, and I specified dark skin. And it gave me a white person. I was like, no. And then I was like, okay, African American. No. Okay, black skin. No. Okay, like jet black night skin, and it gave me a white person. And I was like, this makes no sense.
Yeah.
I actually have the picture.
The bias, it's all about the data sets. I 15 years ago now was at a SUNY Library Association conference, and the folks who built IBM's Watson, which is the one that then went on they went on Jeopardy. They ran Jeopardy champions against Watson to see who would win. And it was the folks who were working on Watson in the early days, and they were telling sort of funny anecdotes about trying to push forward on machine learning. And one of the stories that they told was that first thing they used was all the freely available early, easily digitized books, like giant ebook catalogs from the first things that were digitized. And then they discovered that the answers they were getting back were based in biblical fact. because the prevalence of the Bible in multiple iterations was skewing the data set. Because what you feed in is what you get out.
Yeah, that's really funny.
Do we happen to use Midjourney?
I don't remember which one it was,
The tool?
but I did it several times, and I did it with several other ones, and
As a white girl.
yeah, I never got darker skin than that. She was like a golden tan. I'm like, that's not what I asked for.
No.
So I had the same experience. I had a person that was putting in a presentation, and we play Dungeons and Dragons. The presentation's about Dungeons and Dragons, and it's on Thursday, and I wanted to put the presenters as themselves, but as their character.
Yeah,
And one was a dark elf, right, kind of like Drizzt
yeah,
kind of thing. And so I asked it, could you make a drow version of this person? And I could not get it to make dark skin either.
yeah, I don't,
But
like,
I
I
was
used,
using Midjourney.
I
so
used Midjourney. Is Midjourney the one where you put your photo in?
It's in Discord.
Oh, I don't remember what it is, but I used the one that was
You
going
do
to,
put your photo in.
yeah,
yes.
popular a while ago, where you put your
Yes.
photo in, and they got my skin tone fine, but I'm also not, like, I'm mixed, so I'm not that dark, so I was wondering what it would do for somebody who's like a legitimately full, dark-skinned African-American.
Yes.
So-
And is there bias built into that?
Yes,
Well,
there
yeah, absolutely.
is. I have a story. So one of those tools will you can tell it to create headshots for you.
Oh, like the yearbook thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a 20-something Asian woman gave it head and shoulders shots in suit jackets and told it to generate headshots for her. And they all came back down to her torso with huge breasts and low-cut shirts
Oh my god.
because of the
Anime?
over-sexualization of Asian women in so much media.
Yeah, that's insane.
What was it trained on?
Right? What was it trained
In
on?
other words, now we know what the AI is thinking.
Garbage in, garbage out is what it really means.
Now we know what the people who program the AI do in their free time.
Well, actually,
But
the AI
like-
programs itself.
That's true.
So the AI
Yeah.
feeds on stuff, and then the food that it takes in, the source stuff, it then generates from that. So that's kind of how it works, is there's really nobody at the
Like if
Theory
there
wheel.
are people telling them what data sets to start with. It's what you
That's-
train it on.
That's the future, is, I think, curated data sets on what it's trained on and how it's trained will become as important as anything.
So the other one is, there's a great video that I ran into on TikTok from a guy who does basically autism awareness videos. And he's a blondish white guy in his 30s. And he essentially asked one of these to show him an image generator, to show him what autistic people look like. And he got, out of a set of 100, he got 100 men, and he got like 98 white guys.
That's not surprising.
And they were all sad.
Son of a bitch.
So being autistic means you are white, male, and sad.
Autistic people
I
never
just
laugh.
wanted to add a comment by Arnaldo Milian, who said, moving forward, we must then practice and use AI as much as we can to gain a professional edge. And Laura has mentioned recently about it's the data, that you just made that point, it's the data we feed it, but generally the developers are not curating.
Right.
So those are human qualities. Curation is not just sorting. And so perhaps what Arnaldo was mentioning as well, in terms of practicing and using AI, maybe that's a role we can all start to contribute to, regardless of our backgrounds.
And expand what we can contribute when people are talking about why a tool is perfect for this solution. There needs to be somebody who can say, but let's make sure we're looking out for, right?
So this is my plug for the Algorithmic Justice League. If you're not a member, it's a real thing. And there are real professionals out there who are trying to make sure the algorithms don't have bias built into them. I strongly recommend it for everybody.
Brilliant.
Algorithmic Justice League.
Yep.
We should all be members.
There are some amazing librarians who have spent the last decade trying to make, to reduce the amount of bias in Google results. But because it is corporate, there's just very little that can be done unless someone on the inside wants to do it. But There's great research out there about how bad our search results are if what you're looking for is honesty and equity. Yeah. It's the Wild West,
Yeah.
but it's kind of cool,
Like
as
the
long
Wild
as we're
West.
smart. As long as you're smart, right? Come out on top if you're smart.
Kind of like if you're good with a 6-shooter in the Wild West, right?
Right.
The tools of the time.
Well, there was one comment from our initial session 2 weeks ago. One of Laura's colleagues said, she overheard at a conference that folks were saying, okay, so you have 2 candidates for a job. You have both candidates who can use AI. Again, keyword use. One has attended that person's course and the other has not. So again, what difference do we make as educators, as students participating in courses, as leaders on campus?
Yep.
So how do we set up experiences that force us to curate with equity in mind and other aspects?
Because if you go back to the very first things that I was saying, only 60-odd% of our students, or 70-odd% of our students landed in a place that is considered a first destination, right? There are still 26% of our students who are not in continuing education and do not have a job. Let's make sure that everybody's got what they need to not end up in that position. And understanding how to use AI well is going to be a part of that.
Mhm.